Mysterious number legend. When it comes to looking into internet mysteries, I'm always drawn to the ones that feel buried, half-forgotten relics from digital corners nobody remembers to check. Today's case is one of those. It's something I normally wouldn't even consider an internet mystery. In fact, some might argue it barely qualifies as one. But what makes this story worth exploring is how a bizarre incident from the late 90s was kept alive almost entirely by online memory. What we're diving into is more than just a number. It's the number 1-800-GOLF-TIP. Before we go any further, don't call it. That number now leads to an erotic hotline. We'll explain how that happened. But for now, consider this your warning. So, what's so strange about an old 1-800 number? Turns out, everything. The number has shown up in countless forum posts and Google searches, with people from all over swearing they remember calling it in high school, and no one can agree on what it was. Some thought it was a prank. Others remember it playing a pre-recorded message from a man giving unsettling or cryptic instructions, and some think it was part of something much larger. There's even a whole website, 1800golftip.com, devoted to crowdsourcing memories. The homepage challenges you. Remember calling 1-800-GOLF-TIP? If you don't, you're a fraud. If you do, what the hell was that? After poring through nearly every first-hand account available, what emerges is a chilling common thread, a vague but consistent memory of calling a number that left people feeling confused, disturbed, and deeply curious. Whether it was part of a marketing stunt, an ARG, or something far weirder, one thing is certain. No one really knows what 1-800-GOLF-TIP was meant to be. And maybe that's what makes it so unforgettable. Chilling counting call. Counting to 10 over and over again, with strange pauses on specific numbers might sound like a harmless prank. But this is where things surrounding 1-800-GOLF-TIP start to unravel into something much darker. According to countless first-hand accounts online, those who called the number back in the 90s remember an eerie voice, often described as having an Indian or Middle Eastern accent, calmly counting from 1 to 10. But the pacing wasn't normal. Many recall odd, intentional pauses around numbers like 6, 7, or 8, making the experience deeply unsettling. Some even claim that if you stayed on the line long enough, a sudden scream or synthetic siren would blare out of nowhere, a disturbing jump scare that no one expected. While the exact origin of the number remains murky, it's widely believed to have started in Canada. A few accounts even reference a Billboard ad as the first time they saw the number promoted publicly. And here's where things get really interesting. If you Google any variation of that number, the only one that consistently appears is 1-800-GOLF-TIP, suggesting this wasn't some random guessing game. There was a real number, a real ad campaign, and real memories. To dig deeper, I reached out to the website's contact page hoping for a response. Nothing yet. But my search led me to a Reddit thread by a user named Oh I Get Jokes from St. Catharines, Ontario, someone who remembered seeing the billboard firsthand. He claimed he called the number so often as a kid that he could impersonate the voice perfectly. He even uploaded an audio file mimicking the call: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Each number spaced out with an unnerving calm. Even more compelling, a commenter named Connie Lindy linked an old Carleton University newspaper from 1993, listing 1-800-GOLF-TIP as one of the most talked about student experiences. That single newspaper reference may be the strongest evidence we have that this wasn't a mass hallucination. This number existed, and whatever it was, it left a mark. Billboard Voice Mystery 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1. Again and again, looping with eerie precision, the voice paused oddly after certain numbers. I still remember the breath that followed 7. Others claimed the pause came elsewhere. But what's consistent is that the loop was seamless, unnervingly smooth. In a later Reddit update, Oeget Jokes recalled the exact look of the billboard he saw 2 decades ago. Full color, a golf ball in close-up, a club angled off-frame, green grass beneath, and a patch of blue sky in the corner. 1-800-GOLF-TIP was printed in bold yellow 3D lettering. He said the town was St. Catharines, Ontario, meaning by 1993, this number had somehow traveled over 600 kilometers by word of mouth alone. Then, in a 2017 4chan thread, we find that this same billboard stood across from an old bijou theater, which had an arcade on the first floor and a cinema above, now long demolished and replaced by a Tim Hortons. I even found a current photo of the billboard location, small enough to suggest this was never an expensive mass campaign. I've linked Oeget Joke's post below because he responded in under 15 minutes and even gave more info nearly a year after posting. Still, curious and cautious, I dug deeper into the number itself. The 1-800 registry showed the number was updated in 1998, 5 years after it appeared in that 1993 Carleton University newspaper. The company listed was Mayfair Communications, based in Philadelphia. Sounds shady. It is. Searching them reveals a flood of scam reports. They don't even have a working website. I believe they were later absorbed by Primetel Communications, also based in Philly. Both companies known for scooping up expiring 1-800 numbers and rerouting them to erotic hotlines. That's likely what happened here. But that also means this number wasn't originally a joke or sex line. It had a previous documented life. Something real was attached to it. So why go through the trouble of launching a billboard campaign, setting up a creepy looping message, and then letting it all fade? I have 3 theories. The first, and perhaps the most popular online, is that this was a social experiment, a psychological hoax meant to test how people react to meaningless information made to seem significant. And with no recordings, only memory fragments, and one eerie voice counting into the void, it's impossible to say for sure. But something about it feels intentional, designed. The question is, for what purpose? Vanished call. Conspiracy. One thing that just doesn't sit right with me about the entire 1-800-GOLF-TIP situation is this. If it was simply a hoax, some practical joke meant to confuse people or mess with curious teens, why would someone sink money into it with absolutely no guaranteed payoff? Setting up a toll-free number in the 1990s wasn't exactly cheap, and neither was designing, printing, and placing a full-color billboard, not to mention the custom graphic, yellow 3D letters, a professionally shot photo of a golf ball, angled club, blue sky, and clean grass. It clearly wasn't the work of some random prankster with a budget printer. You couldn't even leave messages on the number, so if the creator wanted feedback or satisfaction from the confusion they caused, their only option would have been hearing about it via word of mouth. That's a long shot. So while it's possible, this seems like an incredibly inefficient prank. Let's break into the other, slightly more plausible theories. The second one is tragic in nature. Maybe the person behind it passed away shortly after the number launched. Maybe this was a personal project. They might have been testing something, experimenting with reactions, or even planning a future reveal. But life got in the way. If the billboard was left up and the number stayed active due to some automatic renewal, then the cryptic counting message, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With that eerie pause after 7, the scream that followed, and the distorted synthetic siren might have just been placeholders, chilling placeholders that became legend. Still, that doesn't explain the scream. Placeholders don't scream. Sirens don't just play on their own without intent. Someone programmed that. So again, we hit a dead end. Because unless we find the name on the billboard payment records and trace it to a possible obituary, we're grasping at shadows. Now, the third theory, the one I find the most compelling, actually makes a lot of sense. Let me explain. After hours of research and pulling every thread I could find, I started seeing a bigger picture form. This entire thing may not have been a prank. It may have been telemarketing lead generation. It sounds unexciting on the surface, but stick with me. It gets weird. If you don't know what lead generation is, it's the process of gathering potential customers' contact information, often for the purpose of calling them later to sell them something. In the 90s, this was big money. Caller ID was widely used by then, and anyone who called 1-800-GOLF-TIP would have had their number logged. Imagine the goldmine of data that could be harvested. Curious, active phone users voluntarily calling a cryptic toll-free number just because they were intrigued. There was no do not call list yet. That didn't come into effect until 2004, which means that back then, cold calling and telemarketing were largely unregulated and incredibly effective. So what do? You put up a small, low-cost billboard in a mid-sized town. People talk, they share the number. Teenagers call it at sleepovers. College kids try to scare each other with it. Curious minds dial in late at night, and every single one of those calls generates a fresh, working phone number that can later be sold to local businesses, scammers, or telemarketers. It's cold, it's calculated, and it explains why there was no direct payoff or obvious content. It wasn't meant for entertainment. It was meant to bait a call. In fact, companies like Mayfair Communications, who later owned the number, have a known history of doing just that. They hoard expired or lapsed toll-free numbers and reroute them to erotic hotlines. This ties directly into the current fate of 1-800-GOLF-TIP, which, as we know, now leads to a completely unrelated adult service. Digging deeper, we find that Mayfair, a company with scam reports littered across the web, was absorbed by or transformed into PrimeTel Communications, another company notorious for buying up toll-free numbers en masse and flipping them for adult entertainment use. This isn't speculation. It's well documented. When I searched Mayfair, PrimeTel showed up immediately, even though the two aren't officially connected in most public-facing documents. That's a huge red flag. These companies exist to scoop up expired numbers and squeeze every cent out of curious or misdialed calls. And here's something even more bizarre I uncovered that no one seems to mention. There are rumors floating around on fringe forums that 1-800-GOLF-TIP might have once been tied to a secret number station experiment. Yes, just like the cryptic radio broadcasts from the Cold War era. Some users recall the voice being eerily mechanical, almost too consistent. While this is more conspiracy than confirmed theory, it is interesting that the voice didn't just count. It counted in a tone that many described as synthetic, robotic, or emotionless. There was always something off about it. It wasn't just the content, it was the way it was delivered. Could it have been a test to see how long people would stay on the line, waiting for meaning to emerge from meaningless sound? A psychological probe disguised as marketing? Maybe. But here's the bottom line. Everything we know about this number is based entirely on first-hand memory. No official recordings, no verifiable paper trail, no definitive proof, just threads, recollections, and the occasional student newspaper mention. And the thing about memory is, it's incredibly unreliable. People fill in the blanks, blend stories together, and even fabricate entire experiences without realizing it. It's possible that 1-800-GOLF-TIP is a digital ghost, born from a shared cultural hallucination and kept alive by the strange, nostalgic bond of a generation that remembers just enough to be haunted by it. So, in conclusion, my personal take, it was a lead generation tactic, one that spiraled into a mysterious legend because the creators underestimated the internet's ability to remember, dissect, and speculate. But I'm open to being proven wrong, and I want to hear your theories. What do you think 1-800-GOLF-TIP really was? Was it a prank, a failed ARG, a forgotten experiment, or something far more calculated? As always, I've linked the Reddit thread and sources down below if you want to dig in for yourself. And maybe, just maybe, one of you out there remembers something the rest of us missed. Until then, this is Mystery Safari. Good night.